allows you to create one snapshot for your brain, right? So that whenever, for example, a doctor's asking you a flippant question in a ward round or whatever, you can actually just have a good approach to navigating problem solving in that topic rather than having to like sift through so much information. You know how we all say like, no, I made a summary of Ntontoni and it's like 20 pages long. But in reality, like, is that really a summary? You need to ask yourself is that really a summary? Do you get what I'm saying? So, Katie, you can actually start screen sharing the doc that I sent you. You're gonna start screen sharing.
Will do.
Cool. But yeah, basically what Katie's about to show you now is just some examples of some of the summaries that I'm talking about, right? So basically, depending on what it is. So if it's like drugs or whatever, I'll make a table. If it's an approach or if it's something that looks fine in a mind map, you can see there soft tissue neoplasms. You can just scroll through all of them, really. It doesn't have to be anyone specific. But basically, the idea is creating one snapshot for my brain. So me looking at that approach to liver disease, me looking at those tables, it's just easier for me to be able to put everything together and really have a true understanding of what the bigger picture is, because it's pointless to just study random facts but not really be able to understand that. And what I really want to emphasize here is that this helps to grasp a good core, have a good core foundation for the basic things. And once you've grasped that, only then can you start worrying about all the other nitty-gritties, all the other interesting rare facts and stuff like that. But it's pointless to know the rarest interesting things when you don't even have a good basic approach to something. And that's what mind maps like these help with. But yeah, that's basically all that I just wanted to touch on for that. Yeah, and then now I just want to quickly talk about just some fun memory aid tools. It's okay, you can stop sharing. I think they get the idea now. Or you can keep it there in case someone wants to ask something. I don't know. Sorry?
They're just so beautiful.
Thanks, man. But I won't lie, they do take time. So I would recommend that you do it in a prioritized fashion. So like for the topics which are very difficult, very overwhelming, like they just have a lot of information, or that you see you're struggling to grasp the concepts, I would save stuff like this for that, because it makes it so much easier. Because sometimes you just don't have enough time to make as many summaries. And sometimes, like now, I'm busy studying for my Gen Surg exam, and I just don't have time to make more summaries. So literally what I'm doing is that as I'm studying the textbook itself, I'm highlighting, and right next to the heading of the paragraph I'm doing, I literally just extract the key concepts, put them there, so that when I revise, I'm just looking at that extraction. I'm not looking at the whole stuff again, because it's overwhelming, you know? But I really didn't want to spend too much time there. So what I wanted to talk to you guys about as well was just some fun memory aid tools. And the ones that I'm going to talk about now are from this world-renowned brain coach called Jim Kwik, who I personally love. I love him so much because he just opened my eyes up to just learning in a different way, you know. So yeah, so basically all of the tools that he mentions, right, they're all structured around certain principles that just make learning easier and more fun, rather than the traditional, if I say it 3 times, it will stick. And your brain is like, fine, I get it, you know. But for now, just for the exam, and then after that, your brain is like, okay. But basically, all of these tools are centered around principles such as making, there's this formula that Jim Kwik likes talking about, and he keeps saying that information plus emotion will give you long-term memory. And if you really think about it, it's really so true, because sorry, that was random. Anyway, it's really true, because if you think about it, the most traumatic experiences you've had, or the most amazing, are the ones that you remember. The boring things are not the things that you remember. So for an example, if I were to give you like a list of fruits or stuff to remember, and I just gave it to you, but when you received that information, all you did was like, you just acknowledged it, or you just imagined me actually giving it to you like that, that's a normal experience. You're unlikely to remember that. But if I tell you about avocados bouncing around on your head, blueberries coming out of your nose, that's disgusting. That's like, what? You're more likely to remember that, right? So it's around like stimulating a lot of emotion so that you can actually remember. So study in a way that stimulates a lot of emotion. Use multisensory learning. There are a lot of principles about primacy versus recency, different organizational skills. What do you call this? what do you call this? The word has left me mad, but it'll come back to me. But basically, he talks about a lot of different principles, which I would love to talk to you guys about, but we really don't have time for that. So what I would do is, what I want to say is that I would recommend that you check him out, right? Jim Quick. Quick, like his surname is spelled Kwik, right? So if you do get the chance to check him out, check out his podcasts, name. And the ones that I would recommend that you start checking out are number 1, 5, and 8, right? Podcast number 1, 5, and 8. And then if you have the time to check out the others, I would also recommend checking out number 11, 14, 34, and 85. Okay, one more time. 11, 14, 34, and 85, right? And then you'll see that he also has a lot of other stuff that just talks about good brain health, and just many other things about basically healthy habits that are going to help making learning in all aspects easy, not just in an academic space, right? But I know that some of you guys are going to like check this out and you're going to be like, that sounds fun and everything, but I don't really see how to like implement this in med school. So what I want to do now is that I just want to show you guys an example, just one example of how I used one of the tools and in mid school, right? And what I really just want to emphasize to you guys is that, guys, when you're studying and stuff, in the moment, you can be so confident that you're going to remember something because it's like, this is not a lot of things we do in medicine are not difficult. It's just overwhelming because it's a lot of information, right? And the problem is when the 8 symptoms of that condition and that one, they start overlapping. And then in an MCQ, they ask you that one that overlaps and you can't really remember how to distinguish. So studying in a way like this is going to help to like make things very clear. Make sure that you remember 8 out of 8 of those symptoms, not 3 out of 8, etc. Right? So I really just want to stress that. And also just one other thing, it's going to seem like childish and everything, but Jim Quick also loves saying that like, who are the best learners? Children. Children are the best learners. So trust me, you want to act like a child if you want to be a good learner. Okay. So there are also many other principles. I mean, tools. He'll tell you guys about the memory palace and chain linking and all of that. But the one that I just want to touch on for today is called the law of basic association. And basically, that's just centered around making an association between something that you want to learn with concepts that you are already familiar with or something that you already know. Like I said, when you learn something new, you don't want to just, when someone says, my name is Modjadji, you don't want to just acknowledge and be like Modjadji. When I say Modjadji, you want to imagine something, you want to think of certain things, you want to make an association that's going to make that memorable. That's going to, because he said, I think there's about a 60-second rule or 30-second rule whereby if you don't do something useful with that information, chances are you're going to forget it, right? But anyway, let me not, sorry guys, I took a lot, so I need to just watch myself. Katie, I hope you're timing me because I know myself. Okay, so the law of basic association, so you guys kind of understand how it works, right? So an example of how I used it, literally yesterday, I was, like I said, I'm doing my gen surge block now, and I was just studying some of the, so basically I was doing peripheral arterial disease, and peripheral arterial disease is something that normally occurs in like older people and people with like a metabolic syndrome type of a picture. So your diabetes, obese people, hypertension, hyperlipidemia, blah, 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 right? But then there was this list of 9 differentials for PAD. When I say PAD, I mean peripheral arterial disease. So it was a list of 9 differentials for PAD patients who are young. So that's where it's kind of like, okay, this is a bit weird. Why do you have PAD but you're young, you know? And young is like below 40 and stuff like that, right? So I was like, okay, I actually want to remember this whole list. And how I'm remembering it for literally my exam next week is I'm gonna make an association between the numbers and the differential itself, the item, right? So you can make an association with anything, but in this case, I'm gonna use numbers, right? So number 1 on my list was number 1. When I think of number 1, I think of someone who's very fast or like who accelerates in things, etc. So number 1 was accelerated atherosclerosis. Number 2, when I think of 2, I'm like, me too. I'm like imagining like this young kid just basically going, me too. You know how kids like saying me too all the time? And that makes me feel, that's an emotion. Like I feel like, oh my gosh, that's so adorable, you know? It's not just like a bland thing. So that makes me think of precocious atherosclerosis, and precocious just means that I think it comes at an earlier stage or young or like stuff like that, right? And then number three, when I think of three, I think of triad. And triad, if there's any triad that has come up so many times in my med school career, it's Virchow's triad. And that makes me think of certain coagulable states. And the third differential in this case is a hypercoagulable state. And coincidentally, actually, the acronym that you can make out of hypercoagulable, I would say HCA, right? And coincidentally, the other items that fall under hypercoagulable states also make the acronym HCA. It's just things that, trust me, guys, when you train your brain to start trying to make these weird links and associations, it's going to start coming like this, and learning just becomes so much fun. But anyway, so yeah, I was saying HAC. So the hypercoagulable states that can give rise to PAD in someone who's young are H was for hyperhomocystinemia, A was for antiphospholipid syndrome, and C was for cancer patients, right? So that was number three. Number four, when I think of four, I was like, okay, the association I can make with four right now is that my fourth rotation in this block right now, the gen surge block, is the vascular surgery. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Vascular surgery, vascular tides. That was the fourth one. So vascular tides are like SLE, scleroderma, stuff like that. So then number five, I was like, number five. Okay, what association am I going to make with five, right? I was like, five. When I think of five, I think of five-star hotel, fancy things and stuff like that. People popping bottles and stuff like that of champagne. And I can also just imagine one of my friends being like, that's such a trap, girl, And that makes me think of popliteal entrapment syndrome. Popliteal, popping bottles, champagne, girl, that's a trap, entrapment syndrome. So you guys are getting the hang of how this is going, right? So that was number five. Number six, if you look at number six, I'm imagining like a bike. I'm imagining like if you put the number six like that, a cyclists hold their bikes like this, right? So that makes me think of iliac compression of the cyclist. That's the sixth differential. Number seven, when I think of seven, I think of Sunday. Sunday makes me think of God. I'm a Christian. So when I think of God, I'm like, I like putting God first. I put him in front of everything before I do things, and I don't like to compartmentalize God. I like him to be in every aspect of my life. That makes me think of anterior compartment syndrome. Number eight sounds like AIDS, HIV and AIDS. That's HIV related PAD. You guys get the hang of how this goes, right? So those were the differentials for PAD in young patients. But essentially, guys, this was just one example of the tools from law of basic association. But the reason why I was just showing this to you guys is because I know how easy it is to be like, nah, this doesn't work for me. I mean, I'm even surprised I'm doing mind maps. It's not the first time I hear of mind maps, but I only started doing them last year because I was like, okay, let me really try this. So I would really, really suggest that really try something a couple of times. And when you try it, put effort into trying to making it work. Don't just put effort into trying it. Don't do it once and be like, I tried, it doesn't work, right? Because even when I made mind maps the first time, it was taking time. Word, I'm not a tech person. Word was giving me funny stuff. But then I realized if I first plan my summaries on a separate document, and then I just take that to Word, then I don't have to struggle so much with all of those nitty-gritties of the shapes and all of stuff like that. But my point is, try and make an effort to make it work. And if it's really not working for you, then fine, try something else. And take-home message, honestly, would be that, please, guys, be open-minded. There's so many ways of learning how to learn out there. Please just be open-minded. Kate, you need to stop me, girl. Yeah, I think you need to stop me. Okay. I think I'm running over my 10 minutes now.
Oh no, you're really not that over, Modjadji. Thank you so much. That was so interesting. And I feel like I need to go to all my notes now and make fun ways to remember things, because it's so true. When you can come up with associations and more interesting ways to think about things, it's no longer memorizing a boring list of symptoms or conditions. So yeah, I hope that people go and Google Gym Quick. I definitely know I am. So thank you so much for sharing all of that.
It's a pleasure. Does anyone have questions? Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys can ask questions now, or we can do some general questions at the end for everyone. Modjadji, I was actually going to ask you how you have time to make those summaries, but then you touched on that already.
Okay, cool. Do you still want me to answer it, or?
No, it's fine. I think you covered it. Brilliant. So I think we'll move on. I'll say a big thank you again to you, Modjadji. And then if anyone has questions for Modjadji at the end, you can always just pop her a question in the chat box.
Shame, I think someone's trying to speak. Pure. There's someone who looks like they're trying to speak.
Oh, sorry, no.
Okay, no worries.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Modjadji. We'll move on
Thank you
to
for inviting me.
Oh, such a pleasure. Oh, you have a question, I think.
Hi, my name is Ta. So I have a question. Basically, I wasn't doing life sciences in high school, so I'm a bit new with anatomy and everything. So I'm finding difficulties with studying it. So do you have maybe an advice that I could use in studying anatomy?
So once again, different things work for different people, right? But personally for me, what really helped was when it comes to specifically anatomy, because I know second year anatomy is crazy. I can't remember if we did it in like 1 month or what. But for me, anatomy was something that you literally need to do every day until that exam, because you really need to, it's called active recall. That's the word I was looking for. We all do active recall. So active recall plays a huge role with anatomy. So for me, I was using flashcards. I was making sure that every day I had an approach to anatomy. I watched a video. Videos work really well for me. So I was watching, I think he's called The Noted Anatomist or something like that. But just checking him on YouTube. I would check the YouTube video every day. I would check my coloring book. Then I would remember, I had that approach every day. But also this is before I was discovering all the different ways of learning. So maybe you can figure out how to also interpret these types of learning tools after you check them out into that. I hope that's helpful.
Okay, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure and good luck.
Thank you.
And also, if any of the other speakers have anything to touch on to that, we can also add to that. I also know that there's a fantastic site called Teach Me Anatomy, which a lot of people have been recommending on my group chats. So you can also maybe check that one out.
Can you please repeat?
Teach Me Anatomy. I'll type it in the chat. It's also another great site for learning anatomy. Oh, sorry, those are my dogs. Okay, great. I'll put that in the chat for you. And then if Alana can take the screen, take the mic.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Modjadji.